Good afternoon, everybody. At this time, I'll go ahead and call the House Transportation Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda is a hearing on HB 2335, authorizing loans or grants for qualified track maintenance. Chris, would you go over the agenda, please? Or excuse me, go over the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee House Bill 2335 authorizes loans or grants for certain qualified track maintenance in the Rail Service Improvement Program and increases the transfer from the State Highway Fund to the Rail Service Improvement Fund. KSA 75-5048 contains the Rail Service Improvement Program and the associated fund. The program allows the Secretary of Transportation to use money transferred from the State Highway Fund to provide loans or grants to certain qualified entities for the purpose of facilitating the financing, acquisition, or rehabilitation of railroads and rolling stock in Kansas. House Bill 2335 would provide that those loans or grants can also be provided to qualified entities for qualified track maintenance. A qualified entity, first, there is a definition in that statute that would be expanded to any surface transportation board certificated railroad, a class 2 or class 3 railroad, or any owner or lessee industry track located on or adjacent to a class 2 or class 3 railroad. Qualified track maintenance would be a definition inserted into the statute. And it's defined as gross expenditures for the maintenance, reconstruction, or replacement of railroad track, including roadbed, bridges, industrial leads, and sidetrack, and related track structures to the extent the expenditures are on track located in the state of Kansas, and such track was owned or leased by a qualified entity. Additionally, the bill would increase the transfer from the State Highway Fund to the Rail Service Improvement Fund from $5 million to $10 million. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions for the reviser? And Chris, the reason for this bill is there was an expiration of a portion of that. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. As part of the Eisenhower Transportation Program, there was a short line rail improvement program. So the language that's being put into this program, which does not have a sunset, mirrors that short line rail. It sunsetted in 2022.
So basically, if there's any fiscal effect at all, it's really not any new money. It's just extending that sunset and putting the two funds together.
I think that's an accurate statement, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? I would encourage everybody to review the fiscal note, but again, we're not spending any new money on this program. It's just a continuation of existing programs. So with that, first on the agenda, it says Joel Skelly, but it's actually Corey Davis with Kansas Department of Transportation. Welcome to the committee, Corey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Corey Davis, Director of Multimodal Transportation and Innovation for KDOT. Thanks for the time this afternoon to discuss this bill. As was previously mentioned, the IKE Transportation Program instituted a short line rail improvement fund for $5 million a year for the first 3 years, 21, 22, and 23. This is in addition to the existing Rail Service Improvement Program, which was also funded at $5 million annually. Both programs have been oversubscribed annually and have been extremely popular with our short line railroads and shippers. These projects include maintenance of existing rail infrastructure, construction or rehab of rail spurs and sidings, and major rehab for our short line industry. The Short Line Rail Improvement Fund over its 3-year life cycle has a total project cost of $29.5 million that was not funded. And the Rail Service Improvement Fund over the last 2 years, there was $16.1 million worth of projects applied for that were not awarded. Key to our support of the bill is the combination of the two programs. The existing Rail Service Improvement Program and the Short Line Rail Improvement Fund are extremely similar programs. The key differences, which are included in the bill, are eligibility of track owners adjacent to the short line railroads and the addition of maintenance being eligible. These project types have been extremely valuable to shippers along these short lines, and especially the ag industry. And previously we were unable to improve maintenance projects, where now we can. Over the past 3 years, we have internally at KDOT had to administer both programs, which were extremely similar. That means in a call for project process, working with project sponsors, recommendations, awards, announcements, the entire internal process to build a project. Ultimately, we do that twice for very similar funds and very similar projects, which means our railroads that were unsuccessful were simply reapplying to a different program. So combining these programs not only improves the KDOT internal process, it provides clarity for our short line and our shippers and applicants for the program so they know when and where to apply. Over the past 3 years, both of these rail programs have been extremely successful in awarding quality projects that improve our rail network and improve transportation efficiency, both locally and statewide, ultimately benefiting Kansans and shippers and the entire Kansas economy as we're moving products throughout the state and nationally and globally. Additional funds added to the existing program, along with other technical adjustments, will allow us to continue to support our rail industry. The administrative efficiency of combining the program saves KDOT time, it saves applicants time, and allows us to select the best projects that support the state's multimodal transportation system. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning, and I will take questions at the appropriate time.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Davis? I've got one question. So, this is a reauthorization for 10 million, and I'm looking at your annual program applications, and it looks like the two of them together, you've been awarding about 16 million a year. 11.5 million of that was in the Rail Service Improvement Fund. Can you explain why 10 million is adequate, and yet we've been awarding 16 million?
Yeah, so we feel 10 million is adequate. It continues both programs that would have been extremely successful and sets us up for the future. The reason you see 11.5 in the figures in the Rail Service Improvement Fund, we had a backlog of dollars allocated to the program, and that was due to the way the program was designed. Initially, the program had a loan component. It wasn't just state and local match. There was a loan component where they would pay back over a 10-year period. So not only did we see less applications during that time because it wasn't financially feasible for applicants to apply, but we're also receiving loan payments on existing projects. So we had an influx of money and existing allocation that wasn't being taken advantage of. So that's where you see where we made program changes, and that 11.5 is shown.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. If not, the next on the agenda is Randy Stuckey, Senior Vice President and General Counsel with Renew Kansas Biofuels Association. Oh, wait, I guess Representative Delperdang has a question.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry I didn't get your attention earlier. Just one concern. I just want to clear it up personally here, but we're currently transferring 5 million. We're changing it to 10 million. Is that a correct statement?
Between the two programs.
Transfer. So is this a continuation or an increase of robbing from the Bank of KDOT, or is it all kind of internal?
Yeah, I would say it's within KDOT already. It's not robbing the Bank of KDOT. We're taking a program that was 5 million that was going to sunset, and we're simply continuing by putting it in the other program.
Okay, but it's all part of KDOT.
Yeah, it's all already part of KDOT. Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Yep, we had two $5 million programs that we're combining, so that's why it's 10. Yep. And KDOT, even though it's hard for me to realize it sometimes when I'm not getting my 4-lane highway to Liberal, Kansas, sometimes transportation isn't always about me driving home to Liberal. Maybe sometime I could take a freight train. Anyway, maybe Mr. Hubble can help me with that. All right, I'm sorry to digress. Oh gosh, what did I?
No, I'm going to be nice. Would you? I just do. When you said it was already in KDOT, I'm sorry. I just need a clarification on that. That was not clear to me. And you know how we're death on not going to the bank. So just explain that portion to me again, please.
It's in the existing state highway fund. That $5 million is existing today. This simply allocates it to this program. So it's still KDOT as a whole. We're not taking money from anywhere else. It's in KDOT's budget. We're simply moving it to support this program.
I apologize. I missed that part. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Representative Delperding.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this would be a question to the chairman, but are there highways to Liberal?
Yes, there are 2-lane tracks to Liberal after a certain point. Okay. All right, Randy, it's your turn now. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we did submit testimony in support of this bill. And on behalf of all three associations that I work for, and that principally is the Kansas Grain and Feed Association, that's the grain elevators of the state of Kansas. Then CARA, the Kansas Agribusiness Retailers Association, just like they sound, we are the retailers for ag producers. And then Renew Kansas Biofuels Association. And those plants produce biofuels in the state of Kansas and export that great product all across the United States and the world. So each of these associations have members that have facilities located on a class 1, but also class 2 rail. And it's important in their own way that we continue to have access to that rail. So for the ag retailers, let me just take it in sequence here. In order for the ag producers of the state of Kansas to put their seed in the ground and apply chemical and fertilizer and grow a crop, they have to have ag inputs. Well, the best way to get those ag inputs to them is it's not necessarily by truck if they have access to rail, because that lowers the price of delivery for the ag inputs for those ag producers in the state of Kansas. That means at the end of the day, whenever they have they're balancing their costs and expenses, their expenses and revenues at the end of the year, if they have lower cost inputs, their bottom line looks great. So it's important for the ag retailers that we continue to have access to these short line rails, which we're very grateful for to have in Kansas and like to maintain. And they're expensive to maintain. And then on the back end, the grain elevators, when the farmer takes their crop to the grain elevator, if that grain elevator has access to rail, they're likely to receive a better price for that crop because the overhead costs of the grain elevator are lowered, and so they can offer a better price to the producer. So there's for the ag retail on the input side, the grain purchase on the back end. Both sides benefit when you have access to rail, short line rail specifically across in the corners of the state, off the main line, and also then maintain that very expensive rail. So we have stood in past years and previous legislatures have wisely, we think, invested into this very important infrastructure in the state of Kansas through this RSIF, the existing legacy program, the Rail Service Improvement Fund, which our folks could not apply to directly. The rail siding, I think Corey mentioned that we could not apply to that fund directly. We had to go through the connected class 2 rail. So we couldn't take advantage of that RSIF. Now, the sunset program, the program that's being sunsetted this year, as was mentioned, was part of the Eisenhower Fund 3 years ago. And that fund we could apply directly to. So but what's going to happen is we're going to have a molding of these two programs, and now the rail siding folks, such as ourselves, can apply directly to that program. So we applaud KDOT in reaching out to stakeholders of all kinds, both the rail and us as rail siding owners, this last fall, and recognizing the need to continue this beneficial program. So, and it is beneficial, not just to us, but then eventually then to the producer. And one last point, for a more global aspect, what happens if and when, because throughout the state of Kansas, it's been unfortunate that we've lost short line rail in many small corners of the state of Kansas. And when that happens, you lose all the benefits to that local grain elevator that aren't passed along to the farmer. So we think it's been wise investment of the money in both the programs to continue to invest for the improvement and maintenance of that short line rail, because when that gets taken away, property values go down for the grain elevator, then the tax basis is lowered for those corners of the world and in the state. Your producers are less they have less revenue coming in, and that means they're not spending money to the local economy all across the state. So it's not just the direct effect, it's very tied to the indirect effects that this little bit of investment has continued, if made and continue to be made. So we stand in strong support of the bill. We hope you see the same reasons for it and support it as well. I think there's going to be a small amendment to it, which we would stand in support of as well. Mr. Chairman, that's a lot in a short period of time. We'd certainly stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Stuckey? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Representative Goddard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Randy, for your testimony today. I'm just curious if there was any blowback from the trucking industry on this, because apparently with the figures I see here, 365,000 plus fewer trucks on the road, that it, to me, says taking business away from the trucking companies. So
Well, that's a great
is there any
question,
blowback
Representative,
on
and I
that?
appreciate that. We haven't heard any blowback on that. And the reason for that is nationwide, this has been a trend for the last 10 years, and it's going to be a trend as the current drivers continue to retire. We are 125,000 drivers short, commercial drivers in the state across the United States right now, and that number is only going to grow. So we appreciate the commercial trucking industry. We rely on it considerably, especially when we don't have access to the rail. But everybody should know in this committee that that is an issue that we continue to face. And it's not just how much can you pay them, they're just not there. So we're short drivers every day. And you can imagine if we have one more short line come off of a site, how much more pressure that's going to put on that industry, not just for the ag community, but certainly for the ag community.
I would just, if I understand this correctly, that number reflects interstate trucking, not totally intra-state.
That 125,000?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that'd be nationwide.
Well, I'll tell
And it's
you,
only growing.
the farmers and ranchers in my community would surely love to be able to cut their costs by using rail for shipping their products. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Stuckey. Next on the agenda, we have Ross Lane on WebEx. He is Governmental Affairs with Genesee and Wyoming Railroad Services and Kyle Railroad Company. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I submitted some written testimony, so I don't want to just read it verbatim to you. I'll save you all the time there. The proponents that went before me, I really echo what they say, so I also won't add to that. I'm Ross Lane. I'm with Genesee and Wyoming Railroad Services, Inc. G&W is a railroad holding company, and the Kyle Railroad is a wholly owned subsidiary of G&W. If you're not familiar with the Kyle, it's a short-line railroad that primarily operates across the northern tier of Kansas. We interchange with both Union Pacific and BNSF and really act as that first mile, last mile option for grain elevators and other customers moving a variety of commodities, but agriculture products really make up the vast majority of the products that we move. Our goal at the Kyle, and we've been really fortunate with the support of this body and KDOT as well, to upgrade and recreate a 25-mile-per-hour railroad with the goal of moving a currently modern 286,000-pound loaded rail car. The reason that is important is because a rail car that's 286,000 pounds can then be interchanged with both BNSF and Union Pacific at its full weight, realizing all the benefits of rail, both from an efficiency and cost standpoint. We're here to support this. We've been beneficiaries of the Shortline Rail Improvement Fund as well as the Rail Service Improvement Fund, and it's really helping us with that mission. But more importantly, it's helping us connect with our customers. And so we can pass along those cost savings when we're able to add new rail or rehab bridges and other structures. We can then move freight faster. So say going from 10 miles per hour up to 25 miles per hour, even up to 40 miles per hour in certain cases. And by not adding additional infrastructure, we can actually increase the capacity of our railroad by increasing the speed. You effectively can double your capacity when you can go from 10 to 25 and up to 40 miles per hour. We also stand in support of our customers who are now eligible under the Shoreline Rail Improvement Fund to be able to apply to this program directly. What we see as a benefit to our customers ultimately is a benefit to us and a benefit to the Kansas economy. As was mentioned and acknowledged in this committee, shortline railroads are really a function and came out of deregulation environment of the railroad industry in the 1980s. What you saw was the larger Class 1 railroads spun off unprofitable lines, and that would include the Kyle Railroad and other short lines in the state. Once that service goes away, it's really, really hard to get it back. And if it goes away, likely it's gone forever. That leaves grain elevators, other customers that utilize the rail. They have really no other option but to relocate their facility to another rail line or to start trucking that. We don't see competition with the trucks on this bill either. Trucking is certainly an integral part of the supply chain, just as shoreline railroads are. In many cases, shoreline railroads also operate transload facilities where you see product move from train or rail car to truck and vice versa. So we stand in support of this. It's a combination of two great programs, supports our customers, continues to support shoreline rail in the state of Kansas, and I stand by for any questions.
Do we have any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Shahira Stafford with Kansas Cooperative Council. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Shahira Stafford, and I'm here representing the Kansas Cooperative Council. For those that may not know a lot about the KCC, we are a state association that represents all cooperatively structured businesses in Kansas. Some of those types of businesses are in agriculture, utility, financial, and insurance. Simply, co-ops differ from other big businesses because they're member-owned, member-controlled, and profits are returned to its member patrons. Most of our membership are agricultural cooperatives. We have robust grain and agronomy operations that rely heavily on rail to transport product to market. Most of these co-ops are in rural communities that use short-line railroads to access the national freight network, ultimately exporting wheat, corn, sorghum, and other commodities domestically and overseas. In fact, many of our members purchase or lease the land at their facilities, which means that they must maintain many feet of short-line rail siding themselves. In 2021, one of our cooperatives spent over $60,000 to upgrade siding at 3 of their locations. This $60,000 investment upgraded a total one-eighth of a mile of short line siding. Several of our co-ops have also participated in the 70/30 cost share rail service improvement program over the past 3 years and have been able to take advantage of and make severely needed upgrades to their rail siding that may have otherwise been cost prohibitive. We believe that continuing this program will further ensure rail service to our small towns, spur additional infrastructure investment, and being able to move commodities in less time will greatly benefit our local co-ops and the entire agricultural production chain. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and I'll stand for any questions.
Do I have any questions for Ms. Stafford? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Do we have any other proponent testimony? Do we have any opponent testimony? I show one neutral testimony. Ty Dragoo, Director of Chairman Smart TD, Kansas Legislative Board. Welcome to the committee, Ty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Ty Dragoo. I represent railroaders in the state of Kansas, and we are neutral on this bill, and we're more than likely going to end up being proponents. But as Mr. Stuckey stated earlier, we are going to offer amendment through the committee. I believe the amendment has been drafted. It's really just a technical amendment. I think during his testimony, you heard him say Class 1 railroads do have access to some of these elevators and co-ops. We believe Class 1 should not be in the Rail Improvement Fund, should not be eligible for that. So one of our amendments defines clear in the language. There is language already that says Class 2 and 3. We're asking that that line be moved up to where it says any Surface Transportation Board railroad. Just add that bottom line saying any Class 2 or 3. The other thing is the scope of the bill when it comes to yard limits and yard facilities. We're just asking that the Federal Railroad Administration's definition of yard be included in this bill. So it gives more scope and defines the language into what exactly yards they're talking about when it comes to the facilities, the industrial leads next to Class 2 and Class 3 railroads. So again, technical amendments, just defining the bill, making it cleaner. And if that happens, we're probably going to be there. We were a member of the transportation task force that formed Ike, and Representative Francis knows we're strong advocates of the Rail Improvement Fund because you're hearing in here what it does for business. I'm going to tell you what it does for my members. When they clean up these yards, they make these leads better. We're the ones out there working in these conditions. So when they improve these things, that's good for us as well. So we support this kind of investment in the state. We hope you continue the program. Again, there's no money added to it. I believe at one point during the task force discussions, there was even discussion about increasing that, but that it went where it went. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Do I have any questions for Mr. Trujillo? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, Ty.
Thank you, Representative.
Do we have any other testimony that anybody would like to provide on this bill? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and close the hearing on HB 2335. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is House Bill 2346, providing for the Back the Blue license plate. Revisor Wagner, would you please give us a brief overview?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee House Bill 2346 would provide for the Back the Blue license plate. The bill would provide that any vehicle owner may be issued a Back the Blue license plate for every vehicle or truck upon proper registration and payment of regular license fees. Any applicant for this license plate shall also pay a law enforcement training support fee to the county treasurer, and that fee is $30. Those fees will then be deposited into the local law enforcement training reimbursement fund, a current fund, and KSA 74-5620, and the fees will go towards the purposes of that fund. These license plates would be subject to all distinctive license plates requirement, including issuance of an initial 250 license plates and design costs up to $5,000. And also subject to the personalized license plate fee that applies to all distinctive license plates of $40. I would like to add a note, Mr. Chairman, for an issue that was brought to my attention. For this particular plate and the fee structure, it doesn't follow usual distinctive license plates where there's a sponsoring organization and that organization gets the fee. And so it might be prudent for the committee to consider maybe exempting these plates at least from the $5,000 design cost requirement that's on sponsoring organizations. So I just want to bring that to the committee's attention.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for the revisor? Okay, thank you, Chris. First proponent that I have listed is Scott Kirkpatrick, president of the Kansas Fraternal Order of Police Lodge Number 4. Welcome to the committee.
That makes a difference. In Kansas City for over 22 years, and as the chairman stated, am currently the president of the Kansas City Fraternal Order of Police. House Bill 2346, as the revisor stated, creates a Back the Blue license plate, distinctive license plate in the state of Kansas. I'm sure you are aware that news media, social media, however, the majority of the people get their news, law enforcement isn't in high regard at the moment. And quite honestly, that is forcing numerous individuals to decide to leave that profession because they feel like the communities that they support may not have their back. And as well, it is very hard to find applicants. I myself work at our training academy. We have a hiring process next month. And we have 6 people that want to be policemen in Kansas City. 6. And so I think we can agree that that's a culmination of things, but a lack of support is definitely one of those. I think that being able to traverse the city or the roadways in our cities and counties throughout this state, and if individuals support law enforcement in the state of Kansas and choose to show that on the back of their vehicle through the registration, could only help the law enforcement officers on the roadways to show that the citizens of this state do support them in their endeavor and profession, and maybe help build their morale back up and a show of support in the citizens of Kansas. As the revisor mentioned, there is a fee should somebody want to put that registration on their motor vehicle, and that fee would then go to the local law enforcement training fund. I don't think I need to explain to this committee budgets when it comes to law enforcement training. We are expecting more of our law enforcement officers. With that comes more training in these already constrained budgets. While I understand it's not going to be a large sum of money that would probably be generated, any money that could help train our law enforcement officers in this state, I think, is something that we should take a look at as an opportunity to get better at what we do. I can't help but make mention, it's not in my written testimony, but as I was traveling into Topeka today to have this conversation with you, I saw a billboard, and it was a Kansas State distinctive license plate on a billboard, and it's Kansas State alumni. Hey, get you one of these. And I said, well, would you look at that? There's an advertisement for a distinctive license plate in the state of Kansas on the interstate. I don't think that we are asking for anything more than what we offer other organizations, as the revisor stated, in this state, and maybe help our law enforcement officers in their career that they chose as well. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your time, and I would stand for any questions that anybody would have.
All right, questions? Representative Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, if we weren't to send the money to the training program, is there some other place where this money would go to good use to actually help police officers? I mean, is there is there like a state chapter of the Fraternal Order? Or is there some other place where you could send it where we could be sure that it's going to police, law enforcement officers and their families?
Yes. So there is a state chapter of the Fraternal Order of Police where we obviously, take time, we bring people together, have trainings with different other things. That is a good avenue. One avenue that I actually had crossed my mind initially when we were having these conversations was even the Kansas Law Enforcement Memorial that's right here on these grounds to upkeep and do those kind of things. So I think there are other avenues this committee could take a look at that would go back to law enforcement.
Mr. Chair, if I could, one other question. If I'm stopped while speeding while having this license plate, do I get a warning instead of a ticket?
I think I might have had that conversation with someone today. I would say that, I would expect those officers to uphold the law as they were sworn to do.
You're going to make me really happy. Seriously, though, I can't speak for the whole state of Kansas, but I speak for myself. I very much appreciate our law enforcement officers, and thank you for your service, and thank you for the service of all your brothers and sisters in blue.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much for your testimony. We have one written proponent, Ed Klump, with the Kansas Association of Chiefs of Police, Kansas Sheriff's Association, Kansas Peace Officers Association. Do we have any other proponent testimony? Seeing none, do we have any opponent testimony? Seeing none, do we have any neutral testimony? All right. Since we don't have any other testimony, I'll go ahead and close the hearing for House Bill 2346, providing back the blue license plate. Next on the agenda, we'll open the hearing on House Bill 2360, eliminating the requirement to include a county designation on license plates. The first proponent is Representative Joella Hoy. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It's not on my agenda today. It got left off. I need Revisor Wagner to give us a brief overview.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, House Bill 2360 would eliminate the requirement to include a county designation on license plates. That requirement is in KSA 8-147, and it requires a license plate to have a decal that provides the county designation of the county where the vehicle was registered. The bill would strike any reference in the motor vehicle registration laws requiring the county designation to be included on the plate, and strike any related references to that county designation decal. The bill would provide other technical corrections to these statutes to conform to some more modern drafting practices. That I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for the revisor? Okay, if not, thank you very much. All right, now Representative Hoy, if you'd like to give your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Representative Joella Hoy, House District 17. The way this bill came about prior to session, the Lenexa delegation, we were meeting and having some conversations broadly about public safety, and the topic of county designation on license plates came up. and started looking into kind of reasonings behind it, purpose. But in the meantime, there was a bill in the Senate that would then add county distinction to all Kansas license plates. And right now, our distinctive plates do not have the little county abbreviation sticker on them. And in order to do that, there would need to be a complete redesign of 83 distinctive license plates at the cost of $20,750. And so I decided to move forward quickly and get this in this session as another option, because this bill would require the redesign of less plates for the with the fiscal note of $5,500. And so again, as the legislature is going to move into this particular topic, I thought it was wise to have all options out there on the table. And I believe this bill is the more efficient and cost effective approach if we decide that consistency is desired on all of our plates. And with that, I would stand for questions.
Questions for Representative Hoy? Representative Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative. I appreciate your newfound conservatism as far as saving the state money. One quick question, though. What is the discussion around removing the county designation? I guess what problem are we trying to fix here?
You'll hear more of that in the next testimony. But again, the reason I wanted to move forward on this quickly is just to get all options on the table. But I do think that it's a way sometimes, depending on where you're parked or where you're driving, let's not see each other as strangers. We're all Kansans here. So any sort of equity and fairness and not making any sort of preconceived notions about where someone is from. I think that's kind of where it stems. But again, we do have inconsistency in our license plates between the standard plates and the distinctive plates. And if we're going to make any changes there, just wanted to have this out there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Delpertine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't know if this would be a question for the speaker or to the revisor, but today, do we have number repeats in different counties? Because I've always heard we have between 2 to 5 possible repeats of the numbers. Is that true or not?
You know, we have Leanne Phelps with the Division of Motor Vehicles. She might be able to come up and give us a good answer on that. Would you mind weighing in on that if you know, Leanne?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman and committee, thank you. My name is Leanne Phelps, Vehicle Services Manager. We do have duplication only in the distinctive plates. It does not necessarily county related. It's plate background related. So you could have like a breast cancer plate with number 1234 and a firefighter plate with 1234. So it just depends on the background where that duplication occurs.
May I? But I thought we just heard testimony that the distinctive plates did not have county designators on them.
Right,
so
they
how
don't.
Can they have multiple plates of the same number?
Right, they do have duplication in the numbering, the plate combination, but there's no county indicator on the distinctive, just on the standard backgrounds.
Okay,
Hey, Leanne, while you're up there, so is how many letters can you put on a distinctive plate now?
7.
So this
up to 7. It depends on the plate design.
So if you had the county designator removed, would you be able to expand that?
No. So the county indicator is usually up in the upper left-hand corner, so it's kind of tucked away. The opposite bill from what's being discussed today, the one that's running through the Senate to add that, is going to create redesigns and sometimes move things that are in the upper left corner down, or somehow we'll have to redesign to make room for that. So really it doesn't open up any of that.
So I've got 2 other people on the list. Representative Weigel or Collins, do either of you have a question for Leanne? So Representative Hoheisel has a question for her, if you don't mind, while she's up here.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Yeah,
Go ahead.
well, I was going to actually ask the same question that Representative Delberding asked. And to answer Representative Delberding's question, I believe what the difference is the backgrounds. So it's like a Gadsden flag or a Wichita flag, and that's the distinction between the numberings. So it's a Gadsden flag 1, 2, 3, 4, or a Wichita 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's why they're different instead of the county designation. Thank you, Ms. Phelps, for being here. What was the purpose of putting the county designation on in the first place?
That goes so far back, I don't know that I could get to the heart of it, but I think, when we started issuing plates, there weren't distinctive plates in the beginning. And so we had county designators on all of them. And then as distinctive plates started getting added, and, that's just ballooned in the last, decade or so, we didn't have them. And I can't really explain that, but that's been the pattern, and that's just what we followed through with.
To the best of your knowledge, are county indicators pretty common in other states?
Some, I've seen where some states put it between the bolt holes at the bottom. Some of them will put the county there. Some of them have it as part of the combination. It really depends on the state.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think Representative Goddard had a question for Leanne also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess it's more of a comment than a question. In small towns, I get a kick about going through my town and seeing where people are from, who is shopping at Walmart, who is coming downtown to eat at the restaurants and those kinds of things, just as an indication to people who are making decisions about our city that, hey, we need to be aware of the people coming from out of county and helping us economically. The other thing is, I guess we don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but the old saying comes to mind, having that designation on the plate is years and years of tradition unhampered by progress. So I don't know if that's going to work or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Leanne. Representative Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is probably more of a comment as well. And with all due respect to Representative Hoy, I strongly oppose this bill. And the reason is I remember growing up mostly in Kansas, the county distinction designator used to be larger letters vertical. And then that was changed to small letters up in the corner. And I remember then, if I remember correctly, people complained about that. So they made them a little bit larger so people could see it. And I think it's just good. Oh, like Representative Goddard said, you see who's in your community, who's visiting, and even, say welcome to Crawford County or Lebec County or wherever, if the person's getting out of their vehicle. Or when I travel away out of state and I see in a parking lot, I'll see a Kansas tag with whatever county I, can go up and talk to them, say, hey, I see you're from Liberal, or I see you're from wherever. And I just think it's a good tradition. And I think some citizens will be unhappy if we do away with it.
Representative Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if Representative wants to field this or not. In the testimony of Courtney Elich, I think that's her name, it says, currently all distinctive plates do not have county designations, which goes on to question, well, on my tag, which is a veterans tag, it does have it. Now, I don't know when you say distinctive, I don't know if you mean the newer ones or the older one like I have, but the veteran tags that I see do have the county sticker up in the right hand corner.
I do think there's some different. I don't know if you, Mr. Chair, want to give that back to Luann.
Is that a better question for Ms. Phelps?
Whoever wants to field it.
We're lucky to have Leanne today. I know she probably wasn't quite prepared for this, but go ahead, Leanne.
And I honestly can't remember what all plates do have the indicators and which don't. I know there's a little bit of overlap, a little bit of combination, but generally the standard plates have them. I know the veteran plate does not have a standard background. That was one of the early, if you will, distinctive plates that started that whole run of, it's just one of the earliest distinctive plates we've got. So it may have been that they kind of started in that direction and switched. I can't really say what caused us to not continue decaling all of those. It could have been designed. I just don't know.
Okay, stay there because I'm going to follow up with this.
Okay.
One of the other representatives was talking about years and years ago, the plates actually had us here for Shawnee County. It was part of the plate. It wasn't a sticker. It was SN. And we've moved away from that, obviously. Is there a reason for that?
That would have been a long time ago. And so I don't know what decision was made, but I can tell you that today that probably would not work just because our numbers are growing. The numbers of plate types we have are growing, and we need those distinctive combinations. That's kind of our project going forward, is eliminate those duplicate plate numbers. To do that, I need more real estate on the plates. So I don't have room to stick a county over on the side as far as like a stacked. That's going to take up space and leave me less combination room.
Just one quick follow-up. Since Ed Klump is not here, I wonder if Mr. Kirkpatrick could come up here and weigh in on whether or not we were just talking about this, whether those stickers actually help law enforcement when they're running a tag or looking for somebody in particular. If you want to chime in on that.
Go ahead, Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Unfortunately, I will always chime in. I don't know about assisting as much. I guess, there could be an opportunity if there was a crime that had just been committed, and they weren't necessarily sure of the exact 6-digit plate number. They could say it was a black Honda Accord with a Johnson County tag. Sorry, Representative, I didn't mean to use Johnson County. I'm from Wyandotte, right? And so that could be an opportunity where that's the only thing they caught and put that out there. So I would say there is a possibility. I don't know that it would be on the regular. I don't know that it's necessarily something as far as stopping cars and things like that. It really has no effect on that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Ballard.
That's probably for Leanne. I think I'm confused, but our regular license plates in all 105 counties, they all have the county in the corner.
All the standard plates.
All the standard plates.
Yes.
have.
Yes.
How long have they had them?
As far as I know, ever since we started issuing.
So it's only on distinctive license plates that do not have it, or can they ask that it be included or not?
No, I mean, we're consistent. Either it's always on the plate or never on the plate, and it's based on what we send to the plate vendor, how they're going to print that plate out.
So all 105, we do have.
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Now, that's an interesting number. Now, I think to be very honest with it, I think I'm partial to, I like the county plates, but I do have a concern that I have heard that I feel compelled to do, that often the counties can be discriminatory, that often they will look at it and then it's sort of like, aha, this is this or something. So that has been the complaint I have heard for many years, that they know where you live, what your status might be, or anything like that. But I've always seen those there. But even though I think I'm partial to them because I'm just used to looking at them and say, oh, that person's from this, or gee, what is that abbreviation? What county is that, or something like that? I understand that, but have it, or the highway patrol doesn't depend on it. I'm trying to find a reason, but I think I have to toss it out there that it has been, especially by people of color, it has been told that often it's a discriminatory factor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if I could respond.
Sure.
I've heard that same concern, so I hear you. Another thing that I thought of that also might answer what Representative Hoheisel brought up, back, I don't know, probably 10 years ago, when we had personalized plates where you could have multiple of the same combination in different counties. So I might have Bob in Shawnee County, but someone else could have Bob in Sedgwick County or Cherokee County or wherever. We discontinued that practice, I think about 10 years ago, so that there's one personalized combination. back in the day, I think, and I could be corrected, but I think law enforcement used to use that county indicator to run so they knew which Bob they were looking for. So they would use that county indicator when they ran the plate. Since we don't duplicate in that manner anymore, it's not as needed.
Thank you for your explanation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Representative Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a question for you too as well. Thank you for being here to answer the questions. So why did we start designing these distinctive license plates without room for the county designator? That may be fair. You may probably weren't even there when the decision was made, but was there some rationale to doing that?
I really can't answer that. I don't know why that started. Wasn't in the position I'm in now to know, but that's the practice and that's kind of what we followed. So,
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Delperdane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't know if you'll be able to answer this or not. Are you familiar with the NCIC readers out on like the Turnpike?
yeah,
And do they utilize the county when they scan?
I don't believe they do. I don't have any reason to think they do. I know that their readers pick up the plate number. And then my understanding from working with KTA is they eyeball every one of those images and make sure it's pulling the right plate background and billing the correct customer. At least in Kansas, that's the way it works.
And for what it's worth, I moved here first time in 1981, and I had a county indicator at that point. So it's been around at least 40 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. We ask a lot more questions when we understand the issues, don't we? And I would like to share with all of my friends from Johnson County or Wyandotte County or Shawnee County, when we see your county designation in a Seward County, we're thinking tourist and we're going out of our way to be friendly. So come on down. All right. Do we have any opponent testimony? Oh, wait, we have one more proponent, don't we? Excuse me. We have Courtney Eider from Lenexa, Kansas. Welcome to the committee, Courtney.
I was sitting there hoping to answer half of these questions because I did kind of a shallow dive, not a deep dive into some of the history of the plates. But my name is Courtney Eiderish. I am from Lenexa. I am currently elected to the Lenexa City Council, where Joelle and I had this conversation back around Christmas time over some conversations that had taken place here around this issue. And I wanted to just give some background because these were topics that were brought up either in conversation to me or from constituents and that type of thing. And about why the county designation was there, why, if it's not conforming across the designated, the distinctive plates, is there a reason to have it? So I got on the Google and the interwebs and started to try to figure out a little bit of history. And there's actually a chart on Wikipedia that shows every plate combination we've had since 1913. And it actually goes through and shows you when counties started, when we didn't start out with counties at all, when the counties got added. And from doing other research and talking through other states, a lot of times the counties were added at that point because they were the ones that were making the plates. And so that's where it started. So they would then put their plate designation on it because they were the ones making, imprinting them or responsible for that. And I don't know if that was what was going on in Kansas, but that was kind of the idea around it, because even in the 50, like in 1950, there was, instead of stickers, they would even replace extend the stickers with metal plates because they were trying not to replace the plates every year. So they went from dated plates to having a little tab that you put on it to update that. So as I looked through this, it seems that somewhere around 1988-ish, there was this transition that kind of went back and forth with the county's designations being it went from the imprint to the sticker to now we have just the background of the counties imprinted in it. So to answer the questions about how many other states have this, currently there are 6 states that have a serial number embedded into their license plates, meaning like the first two numbers designate a county in some way. And there are 7 states that have the full name of the county on the bottom of their license plates or at the top of their license plates. And those are, except for Florida, which has some exceptions, but they aren't considered part of the serial number. So when we talk about running through the NCIC and that type of thing, they're only pulling the numbers specifically across. So currently, here's what was interesting is that Kansas is the only state to have a 2-letter designation at all. Like, so all the other states have a number and a letter combination, or just 2 number combinations that are in the serial number, some without the serial number. And then we're the only ones that have a non-serial number with 2 letters. So in talks with the KTA readers and that type of thing, there is no, like what she said, they don't read those numbers. They have to go in and hand do them anyway. And doing this research, there were some other states that were billing the wrong people for old tags and that type of thing, because there were duplicate plates. But now we are in the process of, they aren't duplicating any of the standard plates. So in reference to being more conforming, if we remove the license plates as an alternative to adding and having to redesign all the distinctive plates, then this would be a way to do that was less expensive. My thoughts, well, as the conversations took place with some of my constituents, I wanted to share a couple of factors because I think it was an interesting dynamic in talking about it, because ultimately we sit here around this topic and try and figure out, well, do we need them? Is it important? What would be the reason to take them off? What would be the reason to have them? And so when we were talking about the different perspectives, a few people liked the county designations, a few people didn't know, no idea which code went where. And ultimately there were some people that felt like this was giving up some of their personal information, and that it shows where you live. And maybe that's not something that you want people to know, especially if you work in different counties and you live in the others, that your county designation might have some impact on how others see those and delineate those county designations, whether it be good, bad, or whatever. There's usually some type of feeling that you get when you see those license plates. So the people who like them because it gives them a warm and fuzzy, and they go, oh, look, they're from wherever. But ultimately you also get the same, well, you're not from around here. And then you have conversations that took place. Well, what if I don't want them to know where I live? And then I actually asked some law enforcement people in my community, which said the same thing as him, that it doesn't help them. I was very concerned about it hindering their jobs. I didn't want it to be something that would make their jobs harder. And they ultimately said that it was not a factor in their day-to-day business. And so the only time they did, however, say that it's difficult to sometimes deal with, not difficult, maybe that's not the right word, but that it's interesting when they have to go to calls that are people calling the police because there is some random car that's parked that has you're not from around here county, and they have to answer every single one of those calls. And so then they're having these unnecessary police interactions because someone saw a designation that maybe they did not have a positive feeling about. So that sometimes happens, as what Representative Ballard was talking about. So for me, I wanted to share a lot of this with you because mainly if the distinctive plates are not necessary to have the counties on it, why do the standard plates have to have them? And lastly, if you don't want people to know, or we give out private information all the time. Like, if you Google me, you can know everything you ever wanted to know about me. And I think that there are some people who really struggle with how much information can we control that goes out about us. And so is this something that is necessary? Why do we use it? And if we don't have an answer for that, then why can't we remove them instead of spending the money to redesign all of the distinctive plates? I think it's the same. I think I equate it to if I'm driving my minivan and I don't have the stick people on the back and I don't have my hobby on the back, You know what I'm talking about. That signals to people, I have 3 kids and a dog, and I'm the mom, and that makes me somewhat vulnerable in some scenarios, because if I'm a tourist driving across the state, I don't necessarily want people to know that, especially if I'm alone. The other part of that would be the same reason why you don't put your kids' names on the backpacks. Like, these are just safety things that we talk about, and having that kind of control over the privacy around who knows where you're from and where you live. Lastly, if we're trying to streamline or conform to any kind of standard practice, I just felt like this was an easier way to do this, by removing them rather than making it harder for the Department of Revenue and to having to redesign, and obviously costing us less money. But ultimately, I think we talk about having this sense of community around the license plates, but I'm more about, why don't we create this, building the statewide community? Oh, they're one of us, rather than, oh, you're from there or you're from there, and delineating. Why can't we just all be Kansans? 36 other states have no county designations, and I haven't come across a really good reason, other than I just like to play license plate games with my kids, as a reason to keep them. So I appreciate the time today, and hope that I answered some questions, and I'm free to field whatever you need.
Have any questions? Representative Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony today. You said you were in favor of having some kind of serial number compared to having the letter numbers. The letter, is that my understanding?
No, what I was saying is some states have those, the county designations embedded into the serial numbers, but that's not something that I made an opinion about.
Okay, so in other words, you want us to do away with everything. In other words,
Right. Well, if it's not needed. So, for instance, if we have no designations on however many thousands of plates that are out there that are distinctive plates, then what are the reasons for us to keep them on the standard plates? If it's not used for law enforcement or K-tag, or, there's not some real reason, then why are we delineating? Why can't we just have Kansas tags?
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Minix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't mind if you want to be anonymous and spend $40 and get a personalized tag or a different background. Is it okay? I'm proud of my home community. I don't mind having my county on there, and I hope you allow me to have my Go Beavers on the front of my car also.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Representative Goddard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if we legislate taking those county designations off the license plate because people say that that gives too much information to folks, is it far in the future where we outlaw all stickers on vehicles that we're dog lovers or cat lovers or, whatever, that you're an NRA member? So how far do we go with this?
Well,
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I think that that's a personal choice. You chose to put the sticker on your car. We don't get to choose to put the counties on our license plates currently. So if you want to have your county pride, then by all means, plaster it all over the back of your car. This just gives people, we don't have an option currently to have that anonymity of just being a Kansan rather than being, having the county designation there, which doesn't seem to have a real purpose other than it's always been there.
Thank you. That was a good argument.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much for your, I'm not missing anybody. I saw you looking over there. All right. If there's no other questions, thank you very much for your testimony, ma'am. All right. Do we have any opponents to this bill? Do we have any neutrals? Okay. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the hearing for House Bill 2360. Committee, tomorrow we'll probably take action on House Bill 2298 and then also House Bill 2346. So if you have any amendments, we need to get them in line. House Bill 2335 on the short line railroads will probably take action on Thursday. So